Welcome back to Hardball. David Corn and Mother Jones Magazine have done it again. In today's article on the GOP feud between Rand Paul and Dick Cheney, they have unearthed audio of Rand Paul on a radio show in 2009 saying Cheney and his penchant for torture are hurting the Republican Party.
I think it's kind of hard to believe that we would go around the world to defend freedom and torture people. They are so totally opposite that I just can't imagine that's what America would stand for. And while John McCain and I would disagree on a lot of issues, the one thing he has had the guts to do is stand up and say, look, I was tortured, and this is not what America should stand for. And if Republicans can't understand that, and if Republicans want Dick Cheney to be sort of the representative of our party still defending torture, which is not something America stands for, it's just another way to shrink the Republican Party.
There's a revolution coming, certainly a civil war in the Republican Party. And this comes, you just heard from Rand Paul, comes on top of Monday's Mother Jones exclusive headline. Rand Paul says Dick Cheney pushed for the Iraq war so that Halliburton would profit. So we have the early frontrunner of the GOP 2016 field calling the last Republican vice president a war profiteer and a liability to the party to boot. There's a reckoning, I've said, coming for the Republican Party on national security, on war and peace, and it looks like Rand Paul and Dick Cheney are the main card on this fight. Joining me right now is David Corn, Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones Magazine and an MSNBC political analyst, and the great Clarence Page, who's columnist for the Chicago. Gentlemen, let's talk about this. I see a war. I talk about this at the end of the program tonight. I'll give away. It reminds me of '68 and the Democrats in Chicago, where they went Hubert Humphrey defending a war policy and a legacy of a war, and along comes the left in the party among students, rioting, disaster. 4 years later, McGovern gets to be the dovish candidate. The regular party members say we're voting for Nixon, a complete disaster. Is the Republican Party reaching an Armageddon point where they got people like Rand Paul saying Iraq was a frickin' disaster? We can't have people in there who want to do it again. And Dick Cheney coming out of wherever he hides and coming out and like Freddy Krueger back again, pushing war again. Not only pushing war, he wants to go to Iran, he wants to go to Syria, he wants to go to Ukraine. How can they avoid this fight now?
I don't think they can, and it's not just a dispute of policy. I think it's getting, it's gotten pretty personal. You had Dick Cheney at Sheldon at Sheldon Adelson's, Kiss the Ring Fest, and he was attacking Rand Paul not by name, but everyone knew what he meant as isolationist and dangerous and know nothings about Middle East. And here you have Rand Paul saying he's a liability to the party, and he's acted in an essentially treasonous manner by taking the country in the war to profit a company that he used to chair. This is not a good faith policy dispute. This is really personal. Wow, it's going on with a policy dispute over what the role of American military force should be throughout the world. So this is going to be bloody. There is no resolution to your question.
No, I think this is not only personal. It is, to me, fundamental. Was the Iraq war a good move or a smart move that cost almost 200,000 lives? Rachel Maddow, my colleague here at 9 o'clock every night, pointed out there's a lot of economic motivation to the war. But I don't think even she has ever said, I don't know anybody else, what Rand Paul is saying. That Dick Cheney fought that war for personal profit. That his company, Halliburton, benefited from it. I've never made that charge. Rand Paul is making it.
We know who did make that charge, but in a more subtle way, was Dwight Eisenhower when he made his famous speech about the military-industrial complex. That's the wing of the Republican Party that we're hearing in Rand Paul and Ron Paul. And I have a question about how strong it is right now. I think it is stronger. I think the public and Republicans are more isolationist than they were 4 years ago or 8 years ago. But have they swung that far yet? That's the question.
What happens somewhere in Iowa, probably the year after next or next year, somewhere late in 15, somebody will be there and say, it won't be the old day. Let's watch what used to happen. Ron Paul, the senior Paul, would come out against war. He'd take a shot at Iraq, and immediately Rudy Giuliani would jump up like a jack-in-the-box and put him down by just saying 9/11. Here it is. Senator Rand Paul's father, Ron Paul, was a pariah in the debate stage in 2008 in the Republican primary battle because of his isolationist views. He didn't like the Iraq war. Well, Rudy Giuliani used to take particular umbrage on that and always used the opportunity to remind voters of Rudy's role on 9/11. Let's watch the old game.
We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it. And they are delighted that we're over there because Osama bin Laden has said, I am glad you're over on our sand because we can target you so much easier. They have already now, since that time, have killed 3,400 of our men, and I don't think it was necessary.
Wendell, may I make a comment on that? That's really an extraordinary statement. It's an extraordinary statement of someone who lived through the attack of September 11, that we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I've heard some pretty absurd explanations for September 11.
You know, I think Rand Paul, the younger man who's the senator right now and leading in many polls, is going to take on a Rudy, and I want to even be a Rudy on the stage, a real hawk like that.
You know, there are two things happening here. The intervention skeptics, I don't call them isolationists, I call them intervention skeptics in the Republican
Left, right, and center.
Yeah, in the Republican Party have gotten more of a soapbox than ever before. They've always been there, but now you have Rand Paul in the Senate, Ted Cruz, Justin Amash in the House. They have more voice, and it scares...
Okay, why did Liz Cheney accuse Rand Paul of talking like Rachel Maddow? Because they don't like to know what's going on in their own party.
And it scares the hell out of John McCain and the others who call them wacko birds. So that's a policy fight that's going to go on, and the skeptics sort of on the rise. At the same time now, though, when Rand Paul gets out there and says Cheney started the war to profit his own company, they're going to use that as basically the bully club to hit him with because they don't like the policy. And in that, they're going to make him try to sound like a conspiracy.
What do you think? Anyway, let's get back to a larger point. Do you think there's going to be a battle royal going into 15 and 16 between the people who think the Iraq war was a disaster and those who just love these kind of wars, who want more?
In the primaries, this can benefit Rand Paul because he's about the only Republican candidate right now who holds that kind of a position. So that sets him apart from the rest of the pack.
Four hawks and one dove.
Exactly. And how far the fight will go? Probably not that far in my view. I mean, Republicans have a remarkable ability to pull back together again eventually, but how far they will go at this point in this era of the Tea Party remains to be seen.
Well, I think it's a fight worth having. Yeah. The Democrats usually benefited in the long run from having these fights over civil rights within the party, having fights. If you don't have the big fights in the country over the big issues, you become irrelevant eventually. Anyway, thank you, David Court. I want him to have the fight, obviously. Clarence Payne, up next.